Welcome to my not-so-humble abode. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now platforms. What do you want me to tell you? The Pittsburgh Penguins trail the Philadelphia Flyers 3-2, or not 3-2, 3-0 in this round one series. Maybe I'm being, a little bit of foreshadowing. I don't know. It's been a wild series, and there's just not a whole lot I can really say other than, I've got a lot to say, but in terms of the 3-0, the Penguins largely deserve it. They have not been themselves. Let me see if I am, there we go. All kinds of weird stuff. I'm in this, there's a light on top. You know what? I wish I had more time to sit down and prepare these things for you like a produced show. But I running over to the hotel to talk to Dan Muse, coming back here, finishing a story, and now we're doing this. So let's get, let me focus for a second here, because the Penguins are down 3-0 in the series. What this really is by the Penguins' own hand. Dan Muse has said, half a dozen times, we shouldn't be surprised. Now, what that is a nice way of saying is the Penguins coaches prepared the players to play this way. When the players took the ice, they decided, we're better than the Flyers. We're going to play this way. That was certainly the story of Game 1. It was the story of the first half of Game 2, but the Flyers had a lead so they could collapse around the net, and the Penguins sort of flailed away, firing shots that couldn't get through. 75 shot attempts, including the ones that were blocked and the misses. 27 got on net in Game 2. Game 3 was the Penguins. And I didn't put this on X because I don't have the patience to deal with Flyers fans today. They are a different breed. There's 31 teams in the league. Those teams know how to play physical. Those teams even sometimes do some stupid stuff. Fans banter back and forth, and there's some rivalries. But generally speaking, everybody has a good time with it, or at least can separate. And then you have the Philadelphia Flyers, who are the NHL's ill-tempered cousin Eddie. The atmosphere in Xfinity Mobile Arena last night was extreme, and I mean that as a compliment. It had been 6 years since the Flyers had a home playoff game. So they were amped. The Flyers fans were juiced. But just how they express it. Gritty, attacks a guy in a Penguin suit. Okay, that's Gritty. That's typical mascot stuff. Then Gritty kills the Penguin. Literally beats him to death. And then, they kind of flip around the corner so you don't see it. So Gritty takes this lifeless 6-foot-tall Penguin carcass now and heaves it over the balcony. Okay, you might be shocked. It doesn't end there. Now the fans have this Penguin's carcass, and they're beating the snot out of it as they pass it down toward the Penguin bench. I thought for sure one of those psychos was going to dump it onto the Penguins bench. Thought for sure. And the place is just bloodthirsty, curdling. Yeah. Y'all need help. I've never seen that kind of stuff at a sporting event. I mean, it just goes well off the rails. Now, I bring that up because part and parcel of that is the Flyers' DNA. Now, they weren't a ratbag team for most of the season. They really weren't. They actually were playing, I don't know, what do they call that? Hockey. They were playing hockey. And they're actually, I liked many of the players on their team. However, they've gotten to the playoffs. Rick Tocchet knows the secret to the Penguins. Oh, he's got that skeleton key, does Rick Tocchet. First of all, you trap. You defensively posture yourselves to frustrate the Penguins' star players. Check. I have been incredibly disappointed in the amount of interference which the referees have allowed. There was a rush in, I think it was the first period, game 3, in which, the Penguins with a 1-0 lead, Karlsson racing through the neutral zone, dishes it off to the wall, does a center drive. Well, attempted a center drive. See, once you've passed the puck, you're no longer fair game. And I think it was Sanheim who just put arms around Karlsson so that he could not skate to the net. And I was okay. There have been numerous pick plays preventing the Penguins from getting on the forecheck. Now, this is the thing that the NHL really made a point to call coming out of the very first season lost lockout back in 05-06, when they decided to really change the game from the knuckle-dragging, water-skiing, clutch-and-grab, snoozer hockey. And for more than a decade, they really did a nice job of keeping that interference out. But I guess it's the playoffs. And so, like a bad cable news channel, you have to balance the insanity with, we'll give the other side some time too. So taking advantage of that, now the Flyers are using the interference as a weapon, and they're adding the extra physicality, which they know how to do. And the Penguins, and I mentioned Rick Tocchet's skeleton key, number 2, is to frustrate the daylights out of the Penguins stars with the after the whistle stuff. Note Dan Muse's comments last night when he said, it's after every whistle, almost every whistle. Our guys have to be in a position to defend themselves. He was frustrated too. There was no two ways about that. So when one team knows how to, let's say, game the system, they're going to win. It would take a Herculean effort for the Penguins to sort of overcome that. Now, there are ways to do it, and the Penguins were doing it, which is why I think they were so angry after the game. Sure, they were angry at the Sidney Crosby embellishment. They were angry at Brian Rust getting an extra penalty in a 5-on-5 melee. They were angry that Erik Karlsson got put in the box for doing nothing, taking away a penalty killer. They were angry that Connor Dewar got shoved in the box, once again taking away their penalty killer. One of the Flyers fans came at me on social media like, well, it was 5 players in each box. Yes, but one team had a power play while the other team had its penalty killers in the penalty box. Now, Brian Rust earned his calls. 4 minutes, I could see that. I could see giving Rust 4 minutes. But Konechny should have gotten 4 minutes and probably more. I don't know that he should have played the rest of the game. You see him trying to kick. And that's the kind of stuff that frustrates me as somebody who loves hockey. Like I said, 31 other teams in the league can play physical or, and might even do some stupid things, but no other organization so embraces insanity and nonsense like Philadelphia. And if you say something, even a journo that I like very much came at me this morning. Oh, put a screenshot of some of the stuff on PittsburghHockeyNow.com. Like, the Penguins whining is getting old. I mean, I don't know. I suppose it's a fundamental way you see the game. And it is crystallized in no greater disparity than Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. I'm going to get to your questions. Just think, the Flyers' most prominent alumni, most famous player, is in fact famous for breaking the greatest player in the world's ankle intentionally to win the 1972 Summit Series. Bobby Clarke came up right behind, the Russian who was the greatest player in the world, and breaks his ankle. So the Team Canada could win the Summit Series. It's been baked into the Flyers ever since. All right, boy, I've got a ton of questions here. I should be 10 minutes late all the time. Actually, I am. Friends, I share your pain and confusion. How a team with the second best goals scored so far in 3 games managed to score only 4 goals. Have we forgot how to play ice hockey? We have at least 3, 4. Yeah, the interference is problematic for the Penguins. It's one thing to trap and to collapse. It's another thing to be able to interfere to the level. And I'm curious if the Flyers will be able to get away with that against, say, Carolina. I tend to wonder if the referees know there's going to be so many penalties in a Penguins-Flyers game that they pick the 5 worst. Okay, there's your 5 worst penalties. Here's your 3 to 5 worst penalties, and call it a day. I almost wonder if because Carolina is not going to commit 5 terrible penalties, and the referees aren't going to be expecting a melee. So they might dish a few more interference calls and really not allow the Flyers to impede Carolina's forecheck as they've done to the Penguins. I suspect that might be a tactical thing that changes in round 2 without the Flyers actually making any changes. Let's go to James here. I hate to say it, and just an observation, this team leans way too much on our veterans and has for several years now. This team needs to find youth that has grit and scoring touches. Well, as Mike Sullivan sort of in jest said to me, 2 years ago now? Well, they're not at Walmart. We can't just go down and pick up a few players. This is part of the process. You're seeing the tip of the iceberg with Ben Kindle. I think next year you'll see that with Rutger McGroarty and Ville Koivunen. One of the two at least, maybe both, after the Penguins get another summer to say, okay, you had your chance and you failed. Here's what we want. I suspect that to be the case. Maybe Bill Zonin next year. But anyway, yeah, they are looking for said youth. Igor Chinikov is already here as well. Let's see here. James. Oh, hang on. Yeah, you guys cross-talking. The Pens didn't play well enough to win, but the officiating is terrible always in the playoffs. The NHL is truly a garage league. Skill and speed is replaced by interference, holding, and goons. The only league in the world, not just of the major leagues, but any league in the world. None changes their rule book quite like the NHL. I don't know why. You would think you would want to promote your best. But in the playoffs, the NHL promotes, exalts, highlights, features, praises its worst. Ultimately, talent usually wins out, which is why, teams that try the extra legal stuff almost as a primary don't win. Florida, incredibly good. And even Florida doesn't do quite the level that the Flyers do. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe Florida drove other teams so nuts with extra legal stuff that they won. But I thought the Panthers were extremely talented and a great hockey team and well coached. And they just happen to know what buttons to push to make you insanely angry. This series reminds me of the 1997 Flyers series. They're just way better, and it's not remotely competitive. I think the reason, Gable Fisk, thanks for checking in, I don't think that. I think that's why Penguins fans and the Penguins are indeed so frustrated, because the Flyers are not a better team than them. They're just beating them through, a lot of various reasons. There's a lot that is to the fault of the Penguins. There's some that are to the credit of the Flyers. Mark checks in. Dan, I know there's a lot of doom and gloom in Pensland currently. If they lose this series, would you consider this a disappointing season or a success considering what they were supposed to be? Good question. And I suppose how this series ends will define will create my answer. If they go out in 4, horrible disappointment. You've come this far and fallen flat on your face at the end, that's not going to sit well with anybody. And in fact, I'm going to tell you, I don't know this to be true, but I strongly suspect this to be true. If the Penguins get bounced in 4 or 5 games, it will be like they never made the playoffs internally. There will be big changes for next year. The Penguins will shed veterans. The Penguins will look at Sidney Crosby. Kyle Dubas will look at Sidney Crosby face to face and say, okay, we had a veteran team. We brought it, we made the best of this situation. You had a playoff run, but it's not going to get any better. So we have to make changes. We have to take the step back now. We can try to make the playoffs again, but the best we're hoping for is a round 1 win. That's not good enough. So from that standpoint, the Penguins' season and how it's defined, success or failure, will come in the next 3 games. I think they have to force a Game 7. After that, all bets are off. If they win or lose, that won't matter as much. And I think that would change some thinking or soften some thinking. But if they go humbly in 4, maybe 5 games, at that point, I could see Dubas bring, what do they call the thing with the Grim Reaper holds? The Scathe? Scythe? Scathe? I've always read it, never said it. He'll bring the sickle. I will not give up hope for Gino to get another year. He's been in the middle in terms of the Penguins. Here's some analysis. The Penguins kind of really have had some very good performances in this series, guys. The top line, Sidney Crosby, Brian Rust, Rickard Rakell over the last 30 minutes, very, very good. The second line over the last 30 minutes of the series, we're talking, and actually the players comprising the second line, 2 of the 3 anyway, Tommy Novak, Anthony Mantha, passengers, invisible, not good enough. Genny Malkin in the middle, had his moments, done some dumb things, had some turnovers, but also had some high points. That kind of describes his career, doesn't it? Novak and Mantha have to be so much better for the Penguins to win more than 1 game in this series. And it probably doesn't speak well of either's future either, that they've been so anemic, soft, quiet in the series. Ben Kindle, I thought last night, man, he put his heart on his sleeve. He was trying. That line with Chinakhov, Kindle, Brazeau had nothing. No connectivity, no chemistry. What you saw was a series of one-off individual plays, some by Kindle, some by Chinakhov, none by Brazeau. I would actually kind of think that the way Brazeau has played over the last month plus of the season and his invisibility in Game 3 also does not bode well for his Penguins' future. Kind of related to all of this, is that Mark? I didn't put my glasses on. Hang on. Can you see Philly? Yeah, I'm actually downtown Philly. How's the light if I do that? That's okay. Also, with the series turning out the way it is, how busy is Kyle Dubas this summer? How much do you think will change? I do think there will be a lot of changes. I don't think that Dubas will trying to get immediately better. I don't think he'll be as aggressive with second chance players. He hit on everybody. Parker Wotherspoon, Justin Brazeau, Anthony Mantha. Who am I missing? He hit on all of these players. But it still only brought them so far. I think he will be busy this summer, but the focus will be exclusively on young players, younger players. Let's call it the 26 and under set that could be around for 7 to 10 years. I don't think you'll see the cast-offs and the retreads get another shot with the Penguins. Maybe a guy like Mantha, another player in Mantha's situation, although none spring to mind, maybe they would take a gamble on a high-end player. That's kind of where I'm at with it. But they need speed. Well, yeah, Don, I kind of, as part of the explanations I was giving about the interference and all of those sorts of things, that takes away the speed. This is what the New Jersey Devils really did to the NHL in the 90s when they suffocated everything and everybody to the point that eventually, the NHL had to say, okay, enough interference coming out of the 05-06 lockout. The Penguins aren't playing lethargically or lazy or trying to look slow. It's just tougher to skate with somebody hugging you. I mean, maybe we all need a hug sometimes. Maybe the Penguins need a hug for Game 4. But they probably should also get the power play that comes with it. Don says, Dan, can they do it? I mean, I would look a little bit silly if I said yes, right? I try not to sugarcoat things for you all, and I try not to ever kind of give like a fan opinion and those sorts of things. I work pretty hard on what I do. Something tells me that they're not done in this series. Something tells me that there will be, if nothing else, that final gasp of life, because the Flyers aren't a significantly better team. And now maybe the Penguins will have finally humbled themselves enough. That was the first iceberg the Penguins hit in Game 3. And I'm kind of answering this for you, Don. The first iceberg the Penguins hit in Game 3 was getting a lead. You're like, wait, what? Almost immediately after getting the lead, the Penguins began to play like idiots, trying to rush into the teeth of the Flyers' defensive structure, not dumping it in and timing their chases well, just sort of expecting the game to open up now that they finally had a lead. It was presumptuous of them. It was not good hockey. So for most of the first period, I'm going to say somewhere between 9 and 12 minutes, the Flyers tilted the ice and had the advantage. Stuart Skinner made some great saves in the first period. The disappointing part about that melee 4.5 minutes into the second was that we have no idea if the Penguins were going to readjust, get back to the simple game. Then it became a special teams affair. Then it became sort of just emotionally unhinged. The fans are going bonkers and bananas for 20 minutes at a time. The Penguins, I think, got a little bit rattled by all of it. They got rattled and angry by the calls, and it was all just a tidal wave for the Flyers, who are then up 3-1 and then can strangle the game. That's kind of where it all went wrong. Those two inflection points, the Penguins changing their game in the first period, but even bigger, that melee at 4.5, 4:33 into the second, that clearly, in the resulting 6 minutes now, The Flyers score 3 goals, and that was the winner. Martin says, please remove your internal filters, Dan. Let's hear how you really feel as a fan. I'm sure you are a bit disgusted. Well, I'm not disgusted as a fan. I'm disgusted as someone who loves hockey. I'm going to tell you a parallel story, and you'll be able to draw any inferences. I worked for a team in the minors, play-by-play guy. That team's DNA was Slapshot. And I absolutely despised it. It wasn't, here's the team paying me, and I'm ripping their history and their DNA and what the fans demanded. We need more fights, need more physicality. Hated it. And I wasn't shy about saying so. From that standpoint, I am very principled. Physicality has every place in hockey, and that's why Canada will always be the epicenter of hockey. Period. Full stop. That's why Canada will always control the game and dominate it, because that country and that hockey culture understands to its core what physicality means and what it can do. Unfortunately, the Philadelphia Flyers have a way of taking it way off track and kind of ruining what could be a great series with this nonsense. Let's see here. I just feel like this is the last chance for the big three. I do too. If they get swept, I don't see Evgeny Malkin coming back. Let's see here. I can't, what was that? Aries Shredder? Anyway, it's bad. And old and slow and boring. The coach looks like a vamp. Listen, come on, elevate from the personal cartoon stuff there. People wanting me to speak my mind. I think I have. I mean, I have so much fun with other fan bases. I can kid and tease and poke and chirp, and they can kid and tease and poke and chirp me back. But man, the Philadelphia stuff, it's different. Thank you so much, Michael. Super chat here. Was at the game Wednesday. That was a rough night for me. I was wearing my Sid jersey. They hated me. Wait, Michael, were you the guy, was like 208, section 208, sitting there by yourself? Or, you were the only Penguins jersey. And literally, this poor guy, folks, this poor guy is sitting there just enjoying, what'd you have, a beer or a Coke? And 1,000 people stand up and turn to him and are chanting F Sidney Crosby and booing and jeering. And my God, man, that was intense. Like, we were in the press box. We could see you if that was you, because there weren't many Sidney Crosby jerseys in Xfinity last night. There might have been a half dozen brave souls. But if that was you up there on the upper deck, kind of behind the nets, we were watching you, kind of afraid for you. No joke. Especially, I don't know if television got this or if you just maybe read this in my story. Or, we're talking about that whole kill the penguin thing and then chuck it over the balcony. That was chilling that they would go so far for a bit. I mean, every mascot beats up the opponent. All right, that's funny for the home fans. They're like, yay, he's punching the penguin. Okay, all right, fine. But to kill it and heave it, my good, yeah. It was bloodlust last night, only in Philadelphia. A handful of players have played their way out of the lineup. Ready to see Mantha, Novak, Girard, Letang, and Clifton sent to the moon. To the moon, Alice. I don't know if I'd put Connor Clifton so much in there. I thought Ryan Shea was really good in Game 3. The Girard and Letang pairing is an extreme problem for the Penguins. I don't know how else to put it. They are well behind all other defensemen in expected goals. The eye test, the number of turnovers and giveaways, the number of times they get caught by a forecheck, it's kind of brutal, really, how they're struggling. They are right back to square one, where they were 6 weeks ago at the trade deadline when Girard first arrived, or I guess 2 months ago when Girard first arrived. It becomes a thing with Dan Muse, though. What other options does he have? Letang and Shea don't work well together. I think I sense that Letang doesn't like it, and it doesn't really work very well on the ice. It's not as bad as Girard Letang. So maybe that's the solution. But it's not like the Penguins have defensemen in the press box that they can insert into the lineup, at least in those roles. It's rough. Anthony Mantha, unfortunately for him, he has gone from belle of the ball, 33-goal scorer, wow, this guy is playing unbelievable hockey down the stretch, to where did he go? That's not going to bode well. And here's why. For most players, right, this would just be a bad playoff series. But Anthony Mantha carries the baggage of kind of having this reputation of not always performing in these tough games or big moments and so forth. So for him to disappear, it's unfair in a large sense, but it does play to the knocks on him, which he's probably costing himself a good bit of money, quite frankly. Hey, Dan, Big Joe. Hey, Big Joe. I think the writing is on the wall and a major overhaul is due. The Pens look old. I'm over all the cheap shots and the stuff that the refs are letting go. It's very possible. It is. Flyers fans hate Crosby and the Pens because they are jealous, plain and simple. Aw, he was scared. How funny to speak bad on Philly fans when your fans chanted, yes. Unfortunately, Penguins fans did chant that vulgarity in Game 1. Also notice I ripped the Penguins fans for doing so in Game 1. They did not do so in Game 2. They did not do so at the drop of a hat through an entire game either. Let's see here. You're all cross-talking again. Raymond's Bane, the Flyers look like they love playoff hockey. We look like we are annoyed by it. This isn't playoff hockey, though. This is not playoff. This would not be the hockey you'd see if the Penguins had met the Islanders, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Buffalo Sabres, not even the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Bully Lightning, as Canada is calling them. Not even then would you be seeing this insanity. Martin says, Yahtzee! The 1990s clutching, grabbing is the biggest reason the Penguins are struggling. Their skill in regular season play is unable to happen with all of this interference. Yeah, don't forget now. People keep saying, oh, the Penguins organization doesn't do playoff hockey. It's like, well, they do have 5, the most of any 12, most of any team except this, the original 6. All right. Peter says, why aren't Brazeau and Mantha in front of the goal even more and disrupt Vladar so he can't see their shots? Should we bring Soderblom back for game 4? I think they should. Just like the Red Sox in 2004, the mindset for Saturday needs to be, don't let us win tonight. Wait, do you mean lose? I'm not sure I understand that. Big Joe, the league should be embarrassed with what happened to Sid and Rust last night and the way it was handled. Pat Ski says the team is too old and slow. Look at Tampa and Montreal. The Pens can't play with them. They have to move on from Sid, Malkin, and Letang, just like the Chicago Blackhawks did with Taves, Kane, and Keith. Well, maybe 2 of the 3. And that's entirely possible this summer, Patsky. It's very possible next season the Penguins' core 3 is down to Sidney Crosby. Maybe Sidney Crosby, Erik Karlsson. I believe Dubas likes having Karlsson. And I think Karlsson likes being a Penguin. I think he likes the city. I know he likes Dan Muse. I can see that being a longer-term relationship with Karlsson saying, all right, I'm not bouncing around the league for the next 5 years, chasing a Stanley Cup. I'm going to stick with Pittsburgh, and whatever happens, happens, and he will go about his merry way. Porter Martone will own the Penguins for years to come, 3-0, baby. I'm guessing that's a Flyers fan. Y'all do realize, right, that I'm like a journalist and I don't play, right? And there's the response. 0 cups and no relevancy in 50 plus years. Oh man, you guys are going to start bantering back and forth. Well, I guess as long as I make money from it. The Flyers aren't that good offensively. Muse will figure out how to create more offense. Trust the plan. Pens in 7. Michael Thompson, hate to say this, but Mantha needs to be sat next game. He's a liability. Bring Rutger up and maybe try Shelovs. Chinakhov needs to get put back with Gino. Actually, Chinakhov and Malkin do want to play together. I don't know that they've lobbied for it, but they've let it be known they like playing together. Yeah, you're not gonna sit Anthony Mantha for Rutger McGroarty though. And good Lord, Stuart Skinner allowed the Ristolainen goal as part of the Penguins unraveling. Skinner had a moment of unravel himself. Otherwise, in 3 games, there's a good case to say he's been the Penguins' best. He's kept the games close. So I don't get the Skinner stuff there. Games 1 and 2 were not hockey. They were a cheat code to secure a win, boring and no skill. Martin, I actually, in my gut, I feel the same way when I see teams just clog back. There are certain styles, strategies, schemes across sports that I despise. I hate the wishbone, the option offense. Hate it. I will root for an option team to lose every single game in college football. Every bloody one of them. I don't care who it is. When I see a team run the option as a primary, hate it. When I see a hockey team run a 1-4, which is basically what the Flyers devolve into. When they get a lead, that 1-1-3, it almost becomes an 0-5. I root for teams that trap to lose as well. Let's see here. More Flyers fans joining us. I don't know when Pittsburgh will learn. You need players like Matt Cook. Until that style is outlawed, our 4th line does none of it. Mix it up, especially when they target your captain and one of the best players ever. I don't know. I think the Penguins could be more physical. I think if they had more physical players, they would be less reliant on themselves to try to handle this stuff, maybe. By the same token, there's only one team in the league that does this, like this. Can they savage this series? Jay Shaw asked. Oh, I think they've savaged the series pretty well already. I think you mean salvage the series. I kid. I mean, it's a long shot. There was a glimmer in the locker room last night. Watch the PHN videos from the room. The Penguins border on overconfidence before the series, even after the first couple of games. And almost, don't worry, we got this, we're better. I think the Penguins got mad after Game 3. It was the same kind of anger from Sidney Crosby I got last night. And I don't mean to give you false hope, but standing there talking to Sidney Crosby, there were a couple of us still there. And it was very reminiscent to me of, I think, March 1st, 2016. The Penguins went down to Washington, had a third period lead. The building goes bananas. Ovechkin puts a puck in the net. They get a power play, another goal. And suddenly, like, the building is shaking, and the Capitals play an unbelievable 20 minutes to beat the Penguins. In this tiny cubby hole of a crap visitor locker room that Washington had for years. Like, you literally, everyone's standing like this, including the players, basically, in the old Capitals. They've since remodeled, but in the old Capitals locker room. And I kid you not, Sidney Crosby could have burned a hole through me that night. Not because I did anything, just the seething anger of the game. He answered all of our questions as he stared straight ahead. Anger. Patrick Hornquist that night had that visceral, that guttural anger just below the surface. Like if somebody had bumped him wrong, he would have tossed. He would have thrown mitts in the locker room. They were all just that angry. I kind of got that a lesser degree, but still the same sort of anger last night. What they do with it, I have no idea. But there was that anger. It's probably too late, but it was there. More Flyers fans. Has Crosby gotten off the ice yet after that sniper shot? Face green, smiling. I'll tell you what. It's what? Musty Walrus. Let's do an experiment, me and you, okay? I want you to get ready for a face-off. When you least expect it, I'm going to smack you in the head with a stick. Can we do that? Can we conduct that experiment? Do we know if Vladar is banged up? I mean, he finished the game and everything. Yeah, he got kind of hurt when Rust went across the crease. We were looking. We couldn't really see anything. By the way, I don't know why they blew the whistle when Igor Chinakov's shot took the skate blade right off Vladar's skate. Like it was a heck of a shot. And the skate blade goes gliding. I don't know why they blew the whistle. That would be an equipment thing, not a safety thing. Maybe that's in the rules where a skate also counts where they blow the whistle. But it sort of cost the Penguins a little bit there. But no, I don't think he's banged up. Ozymandias. What is your evaluation so far of Dan Muse's playoffs? Oh, this is a serious question. Ozzy, way to go, man. Way to bring the heat. I wouldn't have sat Soderblom and perhaps would have sat Kindle or Novak for the future. I think this team has a need at middle six center. Difficult call on that with Soderblom. And here's why. Yes, Soderblom looked very good in game 1. Game 2, he was kind of invisible. It's tough to play with him. He's not a puck distributor. He's not a guy who, he had the puck a lot in game 1, almost to the exclusion of his line mates. And so if you put him back in the lineup, you almost, I wonder if you need to put him on the fourth line. Maybe you elevate Achari up a line? I don't know. I don't know the solution there. I do know that Justin Brazeau was sort of invisible. All right, now to the bomb in your question there. What is your evaluation so far of Dan Muse's first playoffs? Dan Muse is sort of finding out why this team did not win a Stanley Cup or come remotely close from 2010 through 2015. Specifically, the core, the DNA. We've talked about 50 years, 55 years of Flyers history, DNA, and organizational philosophy. The Penguins also have the same, except that we demand to play an offensive, up-tempo, fun style of hockey. We demand this. You saw in the first period in game 3, the players buying into what Muse was selling. But the Flyers got chippy, pulled the Penguins out of their game. The Penguins got a lead, and they decided they didn't need their game. This is what happens when the 5 or 6 best players on your team are all mid-30s guys who have been there and done that. It sort of made first few seasons of Mike Sullivan, made it so much more impressive what Sullivan was able to do to corral those guys. The sit down, shut up, and play, just play, and all of that where he harnessed it. I don't know that any coach could ever do that again because it's been done. And the Penguins just default to what they did and do. So my evaluation on Muse's first playoff series is I'd probably give him a B-, maybe a B. Because what I've seen is clearly he's got the right game plan. And he can preach all he wants until the players, will settle in to that. I also think Muse's grade probably gets dropped because if he were a card player, if he were a poker player, the hand he's trying to play with his blue line is a 2-7, the dead man's hand. There's nothing he can do. So he's left to kind of sort that out and hope that Girard and Letang sort that out, like they did for several weeks in the regular season. He's kind of left to put the best team on paper and turn the team over to the players. That's what every hockey coach, any hockey coach, has to do. Is, you put it all together. You give the message, you give the tools, but then you turn the team over to the players. And I think the Penguins have too many players not following through. So that's why I kind of give him a B-. I certainly wouldn't give him a C. The Penguins' breakouts and their tactical changes, both in Game 2 and Game 3, were pretty slick. They were smart on how Game 2, they brought the center usually, but they essentially brought a forward to kind of station at the blue line in the middle like a bumper. We talked about this, I think, last week, where then you had the wingers rushing past and they could get some speed into the zone. Last night, they changed again because the Flyers sort of began to diagnose that. And they were using the weak side to go up the wall, not with possession, tap, putting the puck into good spaces and being the first one there, chipping into the zone. So now you have speed coming over the top on the strong side. If the Flyers try to rim around, go around the yellow, the Penguins had 2 waiting there. The F3 is coming flying in, the defenseman providing support, while the original F1 and F2 kind of cycle up, and it was successful. Just look at the Panthers' Cup runs in the last 2 years. Skill doesn't matter anymore. It's about cheap shots and getting licks in. I think Florida is incredibly skilled, though. I will not let Matthew Tkachuk and some of the negative reputation things that follow him define the Florida Panthers. I mean, there's also Sasha Barkov and those guys who are so incredibly good. I thought the Panthers played hockey first and then used the dark arts of physicality rather than the other way around. Mad Moses, agree? ? We haven't played our game and got sucked into playing their chippy game. Our downfall. I wrote a report card last night that was damn near 2,000 words. I wanted to have it up at 10:30, 10:45, but after spending some time in the locker room and realizing how much they had focused on that melee at 4:33, I had to add a big section on that. So that took me about 45 minutes, close to an hour. Anywho, Dan Muse would agree with you as well, Mad Moses. Dan Muse kind of got a softball question this morning. Hey, you're doing some good things, increasingly good things with the puck and getting into the zone and breaking their structure. And he's like, not nearly consistent enough. We're not doing a good enough job, not nearly consistent enough. He shut that down. And he's right. The Penguins have not, with consistency, busted the Flyers' structure. If they, honestly, if the Penguins were, in fact, able to do that for an extended period of time, win a game, do that, and then do it the next game, the Flyers are not a grizzled veteran team. They're going to start doubting it. And then it's a whole different series. But getting from here to there, that might be Evel Knievel trying to jump the Grand Canyon on a dirt bike or a rocket car. Florida aggressively forechecked and actually played hockey. Yep. Flyers are clearly the better team, hence the ass whooping y'all have received. Okay, so that's I am reborn punish. Fitting. Y'all realize, Reborn, you don't play, and the people on the chat don't play, and I don't play, and no one on this chat, at least I don't think any Penguins are here, although I have been surprised. I've been told a couple of them have popped in and out occasionally. None of, unless you're on the ice, no one's getting, anyway. Flyers fans really embrace that we and you rather than they. The Pens played winning hockey for the first 12 minutes, and they abandoned that style and tried to play east-west possession and control. Yeah, I probably spent about 2,000 words doing that. Let's say the season ends Saturday, says Turnover. If you were GM, who do you re-sign and who do you let walk? Well, that's a huge question. That's gonna comprise probably a week worth of stories. Turnover. If it does end on Saturday, Anthony Mantha probably walks. Evgeny Malkin probably walks, which would be kind of an ignominious way to end a career, or at least a Penguins career, swept by that team. Oof. It will change things. I think Nola Chari is most likely gone regardless, not because he's done anything wrong, but because he's going to be in his mid-30s, and you've got Avery Hayes, who is willing and able to take that spot. And there might be some other guys as well. Podcast showed up. I think this might be a little bit more acceptable if it wasn't the Darned Flyers, period, full stop. I do agree with you on that. I remember the 2019 sweep at the hands of the New York Islanders, and as rivalrous as that series was, nobody walked out of that series questioning the organization. Hey, Dan, joining late. Sorry if this has been answered. Do you feel the team does not have enough grit in this series? Boy, that's an interesting way to put it. No, I think the Penguins have enough grit. The Penguins' downfall in this series has been between their own ears, humbling themselves to play an ugly, simple brand of hockey, and too many passengers. Anthony Mantha and Tommy Novak, and Justin Brazeau was invisible in Game 3. I wouldn't call Ben Kindle a passenger, but he's disconnected from his line and line mates right now. He's struggling, but I wouldn't say that's a lack of grit. In fact, I'll tell you what, Kindle is fearless. He put his nose over the puck a few times in Game 3, knowing he was going to get lit up. And he did it. And he did it again, and he did it again, and even lit up a couple of guys, flying in there like that. No, I don't think grit is the problem. Discipline is a problem. Humbleness, playing the simplicity is a problem. Let's see here. Do you think, this is Paul, do you think the Penguins have stopped listening to Muse? Is there a problem brewing? Just one? No. No. This is just a perfect storm. I almost called it a cluster. No. The Penguins greatly respect Dan Muse. And look, there's only one team that could be doing this to the Penguins, and it's the Flyers. There's only one team that could pull this off, and it is the Flyers. It's okay, guys. Only one team wins the cup anyways. We weren't even supposed to make the playoffs this year, says Jay Mauld. I think we all need a hug right now. The Pens went from Dan Muse hockey in the first 75-plus games to Mike Sullivan hockey in the last 6-plus. Am I planning to cover the WBS playoff run when the likely inevitable happens? I'm not sure WBS will let me in the barn with the Kingerski curse. They might make me watch on television or read somebody else's articles. It's interesting. We'll have to see. Can I be honest? I'm beaten. I am physically exhausted and tired from this season. I'm mentally worn. I can feel myself slipping at the end of the season. There are things I've wanted to do in my personal life, and I'm just nah, I don't have it. Things I've wanted to do professionally, start doing more of, and I sit down to start, and it's I don't have it. I think I need some good motorcycle rides through Coudersport and Wellsboro. I think I need some beer, and I think I need some sleep. Then we'll see about Wilkes-Barre. Odd says if they can win the next 2 games and get to Game 6, then the fact that they were down 3-0 means nothing. You're in the series then, and the odds of coming back from 3-0 doesn't mean it. That's very true. No chance of a comeback. Would you put Avery Hayes in the lineup in Game 4? Well, he's actually not here. But no, I don't. I don't think so. I'm not going to say no. I'm saying I don't think so. At that point, you are acquiescing to the Flyers. If you put Avery Hayes and Nola Chari, and let's say, who else would they want to insert into the lineup with a bit more toughness or something? If you start changing who you are, then yeah. Plus, listen, guys, don't forget, Avery Hayes played, what, 12, 13 NHL games? He only scored in 2 of them. He had 2 goals twice, right? Or 2 goals and 1 goal, whatever. Offhand, I don't recall, but he only scored in a couple of those games of the many that he played. Muse needs to stop rolling 4 lines when they need a goal. He also needs to sack up and sit players who screw up badly. Here's the weird thing, though. When the 4th line is your best line, what are you going to do? Like, if you don't roll 4 lines, that means you don't play the 4th line. Well, the 4th line's been like their second best line behind Crosby, Rakell, and Rust. Okay. I don't know that Canada is getting wimpy. I don't think so. The young players on Philly are outplaying our big 3. Well, 2 of the 3. Look, Letang has not had a good series. Malkin has been sort of held in check. Hey, Dan, Oilers fans here, hanging out with the Pens. Let's go, Stu. Honest to God, I don't know that I've found a more affable player who was simultaneously good with the media, but also open with them. He's a dude, man. He's you couldn't have a lot of those guys in the locker room, but he is interesting to cover. Man, I have like 30. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to go rapid. I'm going to try to go back to where I was here, and we're going rapid fire at the one. I did the 12:30 so that I could go to the Reading Market to get lunch. It's already almost 2 o'clock. Where were we? Oh, okay. Michael Thompson was not the guy in the Crosby jersey getting harassed, although you weren't far away. Yeah, you could see it. I thought for sure that guy was going home in an ambulance. Dan, go get dinner at Chicky. No, I'm not going to Chicky Philly. I've been there. That's a Philly. Everyone's like, oh, yeah. Like, I've been. No, it's Chicky and Pete's Chicky Philly. No, when I get my cheesesteak, it's Pat's. And I'll hear no arguments. Okay, so here we go. I'm trying to find a good starting point here. Okay, Joseph, do you think Kindle got a little bit of the short end of the stick this season? He needs some consistency in who he plays with. He had line mates for long stretches of time at a time. I think if you look back, he will have played with several lines, but none of them were short-lived iterations unless they completely sucked. And then, it was rebuilt around him. No, I don't think he got the short end of the stick. I guess there was some Flyers fans who came in. I saw some blacked out comments, which I can only imagine what those said. I do have some filters on. The good fans never make the news. Everyone loves the bad fans to support their stereotype. I don't know, man. 1,000 people kind of threatening a guy, chucking a penguin over the balcony, while fans, like dozens of them, beat the snot out of the penguin and passed it around for other people to beat. I don't know. You all kind of bring out the worst in each other when you get down there. I'm just telling you, you're probably great people in Philadelphia. Probably insurance salesmen and teachers, doctors, and lawyers, and all of the tapestry. Throw orange on and go to Xfinity. Man, oh man, it's like the Roman Colosseum. Is Gerard the new Graves? I think he's better than Ryan Graves, but he can't play with Chris Letang. Bro, the NHL posted it on their page, so relax, dude. Such a baby. I have no idea what you're talking about. Kind of don't care either. Is Gerard this bad, or is it anyone who plays with Letang? Well, Letang and Brett Kulak were quite good. I think it's the pairing, quite frankly. Happy trails. If you were Coach Muse, what would you tell your team they need to focus on in Game 4 to have a chance? You know, here's the funny thing, and I thought about that. Like, okay, I always try to walk a moment in everybody else's shoes as much as I can, not having been there. I mean, it would be kind of presumptuous of me to like, oh, well, they need to do this. And I'm going to tell you, though, I think there are a couple of things that need to happen in Game 4. One, get it out of your system. If you feel the need to just fight and, go berserk, get it out early. Get it done. And then forget it. 2, you can't hate the Flyers. They are the Lord Sith of how to play that kind of hockey. No other organization or other team has done it as well for as long as, in fact, the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, it also leads to their lack of Stanley Cups, but in this moment, let's talk about the physicality and all of that stuff. You can't hate them. You almost have to ignore them. They chip you. They punch you. Ignore it. They're yelling over from the bench, hey, you blank, 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 blank. Don't speak English. That's really, those are the only 2 ways to get about this. If there was ever a series that shows that playoffs are a different beast when rules are out the window. Yeah, I think we have not handled it well, though. I hate the excuses. Have to be better than that. I have not been happy, says Sunshine, about the unnecessary tweaking of Kulak versus Gerard. Why? Do you mean trading? Yeah, that was that. I mean, I don't know if it's a different series with Brett Kulak, but I know the Penguins would have a better chance anyway. Let's see here. Don't worry. The Flyers won't let you win on Saturday. I'm not playing. Not playing. Let's see here. Odd says, even while rebuilding, we need to keep Sid, just mentor the young players. Yep, that's exactly what Dubas is going to do. Better focus on the NFL draft. Pens are cooked. Sorry, Pens. Flyers are winning, but I have big respect for y'all in Pittsburgh. BW. We can keep Sid till he's ready to step down, but man, he's a shell of his former self, and they should consider putting him on the second or third line. I don't think he's healthy. Why not go with 7D? Seems 81 and 18 are struggling. Replace them with a defenseman. 7D never works. Flyers fan here, but there is a lot of positives for the Pens this year, despite the series being this way. They, like the Flyers, are rebuilding and weren't expected to be here. Lots of learning for everyone. The problem is the Flyers have young players. The Penguins have retreaded players. These second chancers, these guys in their late 20s, the Novaks, the Brazeaus. Mantha is 32 now. Parker Wotherspoon looks like a keeper, 28 years old. Ryan Shea looks like a keeper, 28 years old. So it's not like the Penguins are an inexperienced young team. I don't know, maybe they're an inexperienced old team. 1975. Brian Cooks. Hey, Dan, I was enjoying Pens coverage by an intelligent, insightful, and thoughtful hockey journalist. He then had to blow it by suggesting Domino's was not only pizza, but good. Listen, I love Little Caesars. I love grubby food. Domino's, bacon and ham, 2 mediums. I will eat basically 1 for dinner, put 1 in the fridge, have the next one for breakfast, or half and then half for lunch. I like it. I'm sorry. Grubby food, what can I say? But I feel Letang getting 20-plus minutes every game is Muse legend issue than needing. I'm sorry, I'm not following that one. Better to get stomped than lose in 7, in my humble opinion. Looking forward to the rest of the playoffs. Almost more fun to watch as a neutral. Mikey says, why not go with 7D? 81, 18 seem to be struggling because 7D don't work, and you can't take 2 centers out of the lineup there, guys. Let's face it, undervalued Flyers, overvalued Penguins. Well, let's see what the Flyers say in a couple of weeks. When a team doesn't, when they can't do this to another team, let's see how things go. Could McGroarty cause a spark? Dude has stepped up physically before in big games, like the U.S. versus Sweden gold medal game a few years ago. His chance to step up was in the regular season, and you don't get an out-of-the-blue chance in Game 4 of the playoffs. I haven't seen so many brawls in a game like last night in a while. I'll go ahead and watch a Tampa Bay game. Just want this series to be over already and start fresh. Oh, come on, says Jason. That was a bigger flop than LeBron James does half the time. I explained to somebody last night, or maybe it was this morning, about the whole Sidney Crosby embellishment thing. The embellishment call is when you sort of fake a penalty. Maybe Sidney Crosby went down and he shouldn't have. I don't know. Was he surprised by it all? Like, you get clipped, you're like, what? You lose, you go down, you're seeing stars. What happened to Brady Tkachuk the other night? Just the way he got hit, he's having, a momentary sort of discombobulation. I don't know. I tend to give Sidney Crosby the benefit of any doubt in that sense. To the very specific point here that Flyers fans, Flyers media were just, oblivious to. The embellishment call is for faking a penalty. Did Sidney Crosby fake a penalty there? No, they called it. And it wasn't until Sean Couturier acted out, mocked Sidney Crosby, and 18,000 fans came raining down on the referees in a really intense, that was an intense moment with Couturier, acting it out and the fans going crazy and Crosby down. Actually, if, that was all, it was insanity. The referees should not have made the embellishment call because they didn't make the embellishment call. If you call it right away, you have standing, but they got bullied into it. And I do think, look, Crosby gets high-sticked. Why are you calling it embellishment then? He got high-sticked. End of the play. Let me go to the end here. There's just, man, I could go for 2 hours here. Will Rockstar. Oh, Will's talking to somebody else, not me. More hockey cards, please. I don't understand how they blow the whistle when Vladar loses his skate blade. If that happens to another player on the ice, the play goes on. If that's the rule, okay, but blow it dead for every player. I'm not sure where the skate blade and the goalie come into play on that. I didn't realize that was a rule either. It could be. But obviously a goalie gets a whistle when his equipment, because most of his equipment is about safety. Pads, mask. I don't know that skate blades should have counted. Grubby food always has its place. It's actually why I like Philadelphia. The Reading Market, endless source of great grubby food. Pat's. I don't like Geno's as much. Geno's has a little bit of a spice. I like the onions and the whiz with Pat's. If the team refuses to do what's necessary to win, does that fall on the captain, the coach, or both? It falls on everyone. Every single player who doesn't walk up to the trough, dip their coffee cup in the Kool-Aid and chug it. Every single player who decides to break the system to play the hockey they want to play is at fault. And look, the Penguins are being asked to do a very tough thing, to abandon everything they've known for 82 games to play this slop-tastic hockey. It doesn't always go well. It certainly doesn't go well for the Penguins. It didn't go well for a decade facing the New Jersey Devils. And any team that wanted to beat the Penguins knew there were two things to do. Rick Tocchet has dialed into the tradition like a genius, like a madman. That's all you can really say. The Penguins know how to do it. There's a lot of teams that know how to do something, but forcing themselves in such a fluid, emotional environment to abandon your base instincts, not easy. Can Owen Pickering be any worse than Girard? Interesting question. Michael Parker. The Pittsburgh Penguins are collapsing, but you have to say it was a hell of a season. Time to get younger and faster. Sid is 100%, not 100%. I mean, the Pens aren't my life, but I'll live. 75 is rent-free in your heads. And there we are going to end. I thank you all. It's been no bed of roses, no pleasure cruise. I've got a couple of days in Philadelphia. If you are in town, even you Flyers fans, the non-sociopathic ones, say hi. I'm happy to have a beer and talk some hockey, or coffee and talk some hockey too. It has been a blast. Like, share, subscribe.